Hi, beautiful souls, and welcome back to Find Your Way to Vibe. I'm Amber, and I'm really grateful you're here with me today. It feels really good to be sitting behind the microphone again. However, I really enjoyed the time I took over the last few weeks to slow things down, reset a bit, and just spend some time living life instead of talking about it for a little while. And honestly, it was exactly what I needed. I spent a lot more time outside, did a lot of walking, listened to music, read a few really good books, and just allowed myself to enjoy some simple moments again. Somewhere in the middle of all of that, I started noticing something. Not a big life changing moment or anything like that, just a quiet feeling that something was shifting again in a really good way. Sometimes you can feel a new season arriving quietly before anything around you has fully changed. Maybe it's the way the light lingers just a little longer in the evening, or the way the air feels a little warmer when you step outside. Or sometimes it's just a quiet moment where you pause and realize something inside of you is beginning to open again. And that's something I started noticing over the last several weeks. I feel a little more lightness to my step and a little more curiosity about what might be ahead, because that's what spring does. It has a quiet way of doing that. It doesn't rush in all at once. It just unfolds slowly, reminding us that life is beginning again in small ways. And today, as we begin this next part of the season together, I wanted to start with something simple: joy. Before we move any further into today's reflection, let's take a moment to slow things down. Get comfortable wherever you are, soften your shoulders, and take a breath with me. Take a slow breath in and gently let it out. Wherever you are, allow yourself to arrive and to walk gently into this space with me. Welcome to Find Your Way to Vibe. And now that we've taken a moment to slow things down together, let's settle into today's conversation. In that little break between episodes, I gave myself some much needed space to just live life for a bit. No rushing, no planning too far ahead, just paying attention to what was right in front of me and being in the moment. And while I was taking that time, something I started noticing again is just how important those small moments really are. The ones that are really easy to miss when life starts to get too busy or when we're focused on whatever's next. So, as we step into part 2 of season 1 and this next chapter of the podcast, I wanted to move in a slightly different direction. Spring has a way of bringing a little ease back into the rhythm of life. And after seasons of reflection and growth, there's often moments when things begin to open up again, when it just feels a little softer and curiosity starts to return again. And we start noticing joy in places we may have overlooked it before. And I'll be honest, this year, especially as we move into the spring season, I don't know what's happened, but I feel a little bit of a boost. I feel a little lighter, a little brighter, and a little more focused on what's ahead. There's just something about the season that reminds me that new energy is always possible, even after long seasons of growth. So I'm really excited to see what this year has in store for me and for everybody. Anyway, something else I did during that time was I spent time taking care of the things I knew would bring me back into my rhythm that valued my being. And I really needed that because I had been so focused in on creating the podcast and getting it out there and trying to figure out how I wanted it to look. So I felt it was very important to take a step back and start living the Find Your Way to Vibe philosophy. So that's what I did. And I spent a lot of time outside, especially on the days where the weather was perfect for me, which is anywhere between like 70 and 75 degrees with that soft breeze moving through the air and the sun shining down just in a lovely way that invites in those good springtime vibes and a little much needed vitamin D as well. So that was really something I enjoyed doing during that time, is just laying outside in the sun with the nice weather. That was really lovely. I haven't done that for a while, so I'm glad I did. I also spent some time reading a few books that I've been meaning to read for quite some time, which were books from Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill. They are two gentlemen from the early 1900s who have had a lot of interesting philosophies, and I just really resonated with them. So I started reading their books, and there are many of them. I have appreciated the ones that I have read so far because they have all been very positive outlooks on life oriented, and I'm just really intrigued by them and what they pursued in their lifetimes, along with the ideas that have helped a lot of people over the years. I'm really glad I did that as well. I also made sure to get in some good music and dance time as well, which is always good for my soul, and I have missed it greatly. So I'm glad that that was something else that I chose to do during my time off, in addition to getting back into a more daily routine of my walking, which I didn't realize how much I missed having that routine because of how sporadic it has been throughout the last couple of years. So that was really nice. It really was a lovely stretch of time that just gave me some time for myself and to sit with my thoughts, to reflect a little bit and let the ideas slowly take shape about what I wanted this next part of the season one to become. And I'm really excited about it, and I'm excited to share it with you and see how it all unfolds, because this space, Find Your Way to Vibe, is really about noticing those moments in life that help bring us back into the rhythm with ourselves. So I'm curious, how did you find your way to vibe over the last few weeks? If something came to mind while you were listening today, I'd love to hear about it. You can share it with me by tagging at Find Your Way to Vibe on Instagram. Before we move into today's reflection, we're going to take a moment for something that has become a very meaningful part of this space, and that's the trail of gratitude. Because none of us really walks this path alone. Along the way, there are people, experiences, and quiet moments that shape the trail beneath our feet, sometimes in ways we don't fully recognize until much later. Sometimes it's someone who believed in us. Sometimes it's someone who offered a kind word at the exact moment we needed it. And sometimes it's simply the presence of people who walk beside us as life continues to unfold. So today, I want to recognize those people and moments, the ones that bring a little more warmth and light into our lives, the ones that remind us we're not walking this path alone. So wherever you are today, take a moment to think about someone who has helped shape your path, someone whose presence has brought encouragement, support, and or joy into your life. And if someone came to mind just now, maybe reach out to them this week and let them know. Because gratitude has a way of growing when it's shared. And sometimes it's those moments of gratitude that help us notice something else that's been quietly waiting in the background. One thing I didn't really expect from that time away was how much I started thinking about what actually makes life feel good. Not in a big life-changing kind of way, just in the day-to-day kind of way. I started noticing the moments where I felt calm or happy or just content for no particular reason. And it made me realize that a lot of the time, those moments weren't anything big at all. They were just ordinary parts of the day that I probably would have rushed past before. It made me think about how easy it is to move through life, always looking ahead to the next thing instead of realizing that some of the best parts of life are actually happening in the middle of normal days. And that really started to show up for me over the last few weeks. While I was resting one afternoon, a thought came back to me. And it took me back to the time in my life when I started to pay attention to joy and the things that brought me joy again. That was actually the beginning of Way to Vibe. And when I look back on that time, I realized I felt joy in more abundance than I had felt in quite some time. That's when I started intentionally focusing on the people and the things that brought me joy. And that focus helped carry me through some of the most difficult moments of my life. One thing I knew for sure during that time was that I wanted to hold on to that feeling. I wanted to remember what that joy felt like because I didn't want to lose it. But what I didn't know then was that life would eventually balance me out again. That euphoric feeling or that euphoric high that I felt after leaving a difficult situation that had been smothering my joy slowly slipped away. And I found myself moving through some difficult emotions while still trying to hold on to that sense of joy and self-worth. But that feeling, that recognition of what joy felt like, stayed with me. And even through difficult moments over the years, I've always tried to look for the joy and acknowledge it when it showed up. Whether it was in the things that I do or in the people that I'm surrounded by. And looking back now, I think that euphoric high that I felt back then was so strong because I had been unhappy for so long that when I finally felt the relief and peace, it just felt like a huge weight had been lifted from me. And for once, for that moment in a very long time, or in that moment, I felt free and I held on to that feeling just as much as I could because I loved it. I wanted to keep it because the way that I had felt prior to that was so awful that the good feelings that I started to feel again after that, oh, I wanted to just put them in a bottle and hold on to them forever because it felt that good. But healing takes time, and learning how to balance healing, life, and joy at the same time was something I had to grow into over time. And I think that's part of why I still pay attention to those small moments of joy now. And when I really started thinking about it, those moments that bring us joy are usually very simple. They aren't big events or milestones all the time. They show up in small pieces of everyday life. And when we slow down enough to notice them, they carry a kind of quiet joy with them. And honestly, some of the best reminders of that kind of joy come from everyday life, especially when we're around the people we love. Kids are actually really good teachers of this. They notice things that we've stopped paying attention to. And that's why I enjoy being around kids, is because they find joy in the simplest things around them, whether it's a box or some funky toy or the dirt or whatever it may be. They still find the joy in the simple things. And I really enjoyed that part of my children's lives because they did find the joy in the things and it brought me joy. They have always been a reminder for me, and they still are, even though they're adults now. And I'm so grateful for them and for everything that we've been through together and got to experience together and continue to experience together. From the moment they both came into this world, they brought something to my life that I didn't know before. And over the years, it just kept showing up in so many different ways as they grew into their personalities. And they each had their own way of bringing that light, laughter, and joy into my life and the lives of everybody that knows them. And I have loved every minute of watching them grow into who they are. When they were younger, we found a lot of joy in the simplest things together, whether it was the silly conversations that we would have, the games we would play. We had this one game that it's called Musical Pillows, and we would throw pillows on the floor and we would turn on music and we would play musical pillows every night before we went to bed. We played Nerf wars throughout the house or the backyard. We would turn my bed into a tent and have a camp out on some evenings, and we would make snacks and pop popcorn and just watch a movie together and enjoy an evening of laughter. Those are some of the memories that pop up that brought a lot of joy, along with going on walks and them being silly just to make me laugh, or playing different card games or board games and just laughing even more when we lost than when we won. There just was always something that pulled the good emotions out of the day when I was around my kids when they were young. And I will cherish those moments for as long as I live. As I got older, more into the teenage years, it's changed. And while we still have the same playful joy from their childhood years that never really left, it started showing up in different ways because they changed. And those moments became our family vacations or road trips that we'd take. It would show up in our hikes and our walks and our different experiences together, like waking up to the crash of the fence or the trash can and us running to the window to look outside and see the bears trying to get into the locked trash can, just throwing them around the backyard because they couldn't get into them. That was a fun one. Um, yeah, we have so many memories of them in that era as well that just have brought so much joy to our lives. And it's so fun to look back at it all because it's just, we had a uniquely beautiful life together, just the three of us. So I cherish it. And even now, as they have become adults, the joy has showed up in a different way again. And it comes from watching them make their own decisions and find a rhythm in life that fits who they are. It comes in watching them go after what they want, watching them succeed at what they're going for, and just watching them step into themselves and onto their own path. Whether that's going to Alaska for college, 3,000 something miles away from everyone back here at home, or deciding to go on an adventure and summiting Mount Kilimanjaro. I have a lot of joy watching them experience this life. And yes, it is wildly different, but we are always just embracing that and being grateful for that, because it hasn't always been easy. So it's important for us to focus on those good memories that we have, the joy that we shared, and not to, and it just gives us something better to look at than all the challenges that we experience. And I love that. I'm incredibly proud of my kids, if you can tell by now. And not because everything has been easy for them, but because it hasn't. They've had to grow through a lot of challenges, and watching them continue to move forward and find their own path and not let fear stop them has been really remarkable to watch, and has brought me a different sense of pride and joy. It just, and I think that's another thing that joy does. Sometimes it shows up in laughter and silly moments, and sometimes it shows up in pride, growth, and watching the people we love become who they're meant to be. And when I look back on all of that, most of the moments that meant the most to me, I mean, they weren't big, they were small, ordinary moments with my kids. And little things like that at that time didn't seem like much, but they now mean everything. And I think that's really what this whole idea of joy comes back to. As we we're saying, it's about the simple things. It doesn't have to be complicated. It doesn't have to be a plan thing or an earn thing to feel it. Sometimes it's just about being present enough to see what's already there. And over time, I started realizing just how many of those moments show up in just a normal day. It could be music playing in the background, stepping outside for fresh air, going for a good walk, dancing around the house, finishing a really good book, hanging out with your kids, having dinner with your parents, laughing with your coworkers. I mean, there are so many possibilities. And it's those little things that, when we pause long enough, can shift the entire tone of our day. And for me, a lot of those simple things that bring me joy have been music, learning, and being outside. Music, for one, has been really healing for me over the years, and it has brought me a lot of joy, especially when a song comes on that matches exactly how I'm feeling in the moment. I love that feeling that it's like, ah, yes, someone's listening, or how how did the universe know that I needed this song right now? You know, I think many of us have maybe felt that, or maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I know that music speaks to us, and I know that music, we can all relate to one song or another, especially when we're going through it and we need to hear something that lifts us up. On top of that, because of that, I've had plenty of personal concerts in my car, whether by myself or with my kids, just singing at the top of our lungs and laughing the whole time. And we've also gone to concerts together and seen some of our favorite bands. Well, maybe not our favorite bands, but ones that we've really enjoyed listening to, which is Green Day, Weezer, and Fall Out Boy, which is really cool because I grew up listening to that music and my kids grew up listening to that music. So it was a really cool concert to go to with them, to experience with them, just because we grew up with the same music in different eras. And that made it really special. And those memories are some of the core memories that we hold. I also have this little tradition of my own where I pick a song each year that kind of becomes my anthem for the year. It's usually a song that represents where I am in life at the time. And every year, or whenever I hear that song again, it takes me back to that season of my life. And it's a reminder of where I was and how far I've come. So, another healing aspect of music in many ways that I've created for myself. And that's why it's so important to me. And honestly, even just putting on music while I'm cooking or cleaning can turn something ordinary into something fun and enjoyable. Music just has a way of helping us feel things a little deeper and express ourselves in ways sometimes we don't even realize we need. So there's that. If any of you would like to share a song that has inspired you, or that was an anthem for you, or that has resonated with you, share it. Go on to Instagram and tag Find Your Way to Vibe in a post. Share what you listen to with us. Another thing that has brought me a lot of joy over the years is reading and learning and absorbing it all. I never really expected learning to bring me this much joy because I wasn't a complete fan of school, but it really has me seeing life from different perspectives and understanding things on a deeper level, learning skills to help me grow, and all of that has added a lot of purpose and meaning to my life. Most of what I read is about personal growth, communication, purpose, and understanding how we move through this life. And over the last several years, I've learned so many things that I have genuinely been grateful for because it has helped me and increase both my joy and my sense of direction. lately I've been reading, as I mentioned earlier, Dale Carnegie and Napoleon Hill, along with a few others. I mean, there's Wayne Dyer. I really enjoy Wayne Dyer. I enjoy reading about trees. I'm a big tree fan if you haven't figured that out. So yeah, I just have all these books that I love to read and that just have different perspectives on purpose, on mindset, and how we approach life. And there's timeless wisdom in older books that still applies today. And it's quite amazing. And if you decide to pick up a book or listen, because we have that ability now, to a book by Dale Carnegie or Napoleon Hill, it may not be for you, but maybe it is. I just feel like they have a lot of good things to say that are still relevant to us today. And I find them a little bit more simple, and simple in the way that they're not oversaturated with nonsense. Because it was more just straightforward facts. They didn't have a lot of feeler information thrown in there. I don't know. Maybe you guys might enjoy it. Who knows? But I do. And I'm really glad that I had time to finally pick up a few books over the last few weeks and get myself kicked back into that. So, learning will never end. I will be sharing a few things down the road about some of the things that I've learned, because they're just different techniques that I wanted to learn about as I was going through all my emotions and my healing process. And they all hold a lot of valuable information that maybe someone will resonate with and want to look more into. So look for those along the way. And of course, another thing that brings me a whole lot of joy is being outside. Just stepping outside, taking a deep breath, feeling the sun and the breeze, even if it's just for a few minutes, can completely change how I feel. Being in nature has taught me a lot about life. It has taught me to move at my own pace. And it has taught me that life is meant to be experienced, not rushed through. And being outside has also made me notice so many things that I probably would have missed before. I have watched nature at its finest, and I have witnessed things that if I wasn't paying attention, I wouldn't have seen otherwise. I've some funny things that I've discovered. I've watched trapdoor spiders peer out of their homes. I didn't even know there was trapdoor spiders. Unless you pay attention and learn. This one I learned from a friend of mine on the trails, but I would have never ever noticed a trapdoor spider home. And it literally is just like a flap of dirt that it like makes into its home, that will like pop up and wait for prey, sneak out, grab its prey, and come back in. And the lid, you can see it like up a little bit after it goes back in. It's really phenomenal. I would have never guessed. So I've got to see new things that I never would have known before. And that's why I love being outside, is because I can literally experience so many different things. More of my love of being outside has to do with rain. Some of my favorite times in the rain, one time was me and my kids were in Kauai, and we were on the top of the Nepali coast, I believe it was. We were on a drive through the canyon, and we got stuck in a rainstorm, and it was just coming down. And my kids know me well. I go barefoot a lot, and I just stood in the rain and enjoyed it. I didn't care how much it rained. We were waiting for sunset, and they embraced it, but then went and sat in the car while their crazy mother was just playing in the rain. I love it. That was one of my fond memories of being in the rain. And another one was when I was up along the coast of California. Me and my guy were out on the beach watching the sunset before dinner, and we were sitting there, and all of a sudden he was like, "Hey, do you see that cloud over there?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "It's a really dark cloud and it's coming toward us. Should we be worried?" And I was like, I don't think so, because usually the clouds are moving the opposite direction, but not this one. It tended, it just ended up getting closer and closer. And before we knew it, it was a downpour on top of us. And I just, I loved it. I was laughing the entire time. He was laughing. He was throwing his hood from his jacket over his head, and we just were packing up our stuff and running back to the hotel. But instead of being annoyed or frustrated, we just embraced it and laughed the whole way back. It was so much fun. And it became one of those, another core memory for me. One of those moments where I realized that joy isn't always about perfect moments. Sometimes it's about the unexpected ones that you choose to enjoy anyways, no matter what. So, nature, what can I say? I wanted to share all of this with you because for years I have kind of ebbed and flowed through life, trying to find my rhythm through all of the things that I've experienced. And it's been interesting and difficult at times, and I've missed my mark many a times. I've stumbled my way through the hard challenges that I've experienced, sometimes not really knowing how I was going to get through them. But I always believed that there was a way through, and that if I focused on the good, eventually I would find my way back. And joy has been one of those lights that I followed to find my way back to myself over and over again. And this year has been no exception. When I ended part one of season one, I remember feeling like something had shifted within me, and I can't explain it. I just know what I felt, and I'm really grateful that I've had the time that I did to sit with that feeling and just embrace it, because I have. Over the last few years, I've experienced a lot of different life transitions and things that I wasn't expecting. So it feels good. It feels good to have felt that shift, and it feels different. It feels almost like I'm stepping into a part of my life where there's just more joy, and it feels a lot lighter. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how this next part of the season unfolds. I think that something life teaches us over time, that there are going to be times in life where we're working through hard things, where we are growing and healing, learning and rebuilding. And then there are going to be times in our lives where it just begins to feel light again, and we start to notice joy again, where we start to feel more like ourselves again. And I think that spring is just a really good reminder of that, because nothing in nature blooms all at once. It unfolds slowly. And I think joy works the same way. It comes back little by little, moment by moment, until one day you realize it just, life feels good. And maybe joy isn't something we need to go searching for all the time. Maybe it's just something that's simply waiting for us to notice again in a warm afternoon, or in our walks, or in a moment of laughter, or even a quiet breath where you realize that it's just good. And sometimes that's more than enough. And that brings us to the part of the podcast that I always really enjoy sharing, and that's Brooklyn Lights the Way. Today, for Brooklyn Lights the Way, I want to connect this back closely with the trail of gratitude and acknowledge the people in our lives who bring a little more light, laughter, and joy into our world. The ones who make hard days a little easier, the ones who laugh with us, the ones who sit with us when life feels heavy, the ones who remind us to slow down and enjoy the moment, and the ones who encourage us when we're not sure we can keep going. Sometimes they're friends, sometimes they're family, sometimes they're our kids, and sometimes they're mentors, coworkers, or people who come into our lives at just the right time. So today's Brooklyn Lights the Way is really a recognition of those quiet guides in our lives. The people who help us see the good, the simple, and the joyful parts of life a little more clearly. Because often the people who light the way for us aren't trying to teach us a lesson at all. They're simply living in a way that reminds us how to appreciate the moment we're in. So whoever these people are for you, this is just a reminder to appreciate them. Tell them thank you and let them know that they matter, because those are the people who help light the way for all of us. As we move forward from here, maybe today is simply an invitation to pay a little more attention to the moments that make life feel good. It could be a walk outside, a song that makes you move, a friend that makes you smile, a quiet conversation, or even just the moment where you realize you're actually okay right where you are. Because a lot of the moments that shape our lives aren't big, dramatic moments. They're the quiet ones we almost miss. And maybe that's how new seasons really begin, in small shifts we start to feel over time. Maybe we don't need everything figured out right now. Maybe we just keep walking, keep learning, and keep noticing the things that bring us back into the rhythm with ourselves. Thank you for walking this part of the trail with me today. I am so happy to be back, and I look forward to seeing what this next part of the season brings. Until next time, walk slowly, breathe deeply, and remember, you can always find your way to vibe.